August 17th, 1944. Northern France, near Falaise. The GMC CCKW sat deserted on the roadside, its canvas cover shredded by shrapnel, engines still warm. The American convoy it had been part of had been ambushed in a Luftwaffe strafing run, one of the increasingly rare occasions when German planes appeared over France. Wehrmacht mechanics from the 276th Infantry Division approached warily, inspecting what the Americans referred to as a Deuce-and-a-Half. "Get the Hopfeld-Weibel," one mechanic called. "This one's intact." What they discovered over the next hour confirmed suspicions that had been growing since Normandy. Germany had already lost the war, not on the battlefield, but in the factories of Detroit. The truck was enormous compared to German vehicles, with a 2.5-ton rated capacity. It dwarfed the standard Opel Blitz, yet the mechanics quickly noted something unusual. It wasn't complex. The six-cylinder engine was easily accessible, with parts clearly labeled in English. The mechanic opened the toolbox mounted on the running board. Inside were standard wrenches, pliers, and a manual printed on high-quality paper with detailed illustrations. "Look at this," the Hopfeld-Weibel said, flipping through the manual. "Everything's explained with pictures." A child could follow these instructions. They had captured American trucks before, but never had they examined one so thoroughly. The GMC bore markings indicating it was a 1943 model CCKW 353, the long wheelbase version. Production number stamps showed it was one of thousands made that year at the Pontiac plant. Thousands from a single factory. The first mechanical inspection revealed the design philosophy. The GMC 270 engine produced 104 horsepower from 269 cubic inches. Not remarkable by German standards. But the mechanic immediately realized that performance wasn't the priority. Every bolt was the same size. Every nut could be turned with the same wrench. The spark plugs were positioned for easy access. The oil filter could be changed without tools. "This is designed for idiots," one mechanic muttered. The Hopfeld-Weibel corrected him. "No, it's designed for an army of millions, where most men aren't mechanics." This is brilliant. He was right. The GMC wasn't designed for perfection. It was designed for America's conscript army, where farm boys from Iowa and factory workers from Pennsylvania could become combat drivers with minimal training. Every component was selected for availability and ease of replacement. Nothing was exotic. Nothing required special knowledge. They examined the six-wheel drive system. A simple transfer case engaged the front axle with a single lever. In comparison, their Opel Blitz trucks were rear-wheel drive only, often getting stuck in the French mud and requiring careful handling. This American truck could power through terrain that would immobilize German vehicles. The suspension used basic leaf springs, crude but unbreakable. The Hopfeld-Weibel thought of the sophisticated torsion bar suspension on the Opel. Beautiful engineering, but requiring factory tools for repairs. These leaf springs could be hammered straight with a rock if needed. What was most troubling were the numbers. Stamped into the frame was the Pontiac Plant Number 1. The production number indicated this truck was one of approximately 150,000 built in 1943 alone. One plant, 1 year, more trucks than Germany produced in all categories combined. One mechanic did the math. If one American plant produced this many trucks, how many plants did they have? The answer was dozens. GMC, Chevrolet, Studebaker, International Harvester, Dodge, Ford, each producing similar trucks. Vehicles standardized to military specifications, all with interchangeable parts. That evening, the unit's supply officer joined the inspection. Having worked in the Opel plant in Brandenburg before the war, he understood automotive manufacturing thoroughly. "We're missing the point," he said. "We see just a simple truck, but what this represents is a manufacturing philosophy we can't replicate." He explained what the GMC revealed about American production. The stamped steel body panels were crude, but they could be produced in massive quantities by any press shop. The wooden cargo bed used standard lumber, easily sourced from any sawmill. The canvas top was commercial fabric. Nothing was specialized. Everything was abundant. Look at the chassis, he continued, pointing to the ladder frame. It was made of straight-channel steel welded together. Any structural steel plant could produce this. Compare that to our Opel, with its precisely formed frame rails that required specialized dies. The Americans designed for their strength, immense industrial capacity. The GMC wasn't superior to the Opel Blitz in engineering sophistication, but it was far superior in what mattered: producibility. The supply officer's assessment grew more pessimistic. In 1943, Germany produced around 27,000 Opel Blitz trucks. The Americans probably made 20 times that number of GMC trucks alone. And that was just one truck type from one manufacturer. He was underestimating it. American factories would produce over 562,000 CCKW trucks during the war. Germany's total wartime production of the Opel Blitz, the backbone of Wehrmacht logistics, was around 100,000 units, most of which were the 4.2 version that lacked the GMC's all-wheel drive. Over the next week, the unit used the captured GMC for supply runs. It dramatically improved their capabilities. Where their Opel trucks struggled through muddy farm roads, the GMC powered through effortlessly. Even when loaded beyond its rated capacity, which happened frequently, it kept functioning. The six-wheel drive provided traction their rear-wheel drive vehicles couldn't match. A supply sergeant who drove it daily offered his opinion. This truck is reliable in ways our vehicles aren't. It's not better built. It's built to take abuse. They designed it knowing soldiers would overload it, neglect maintenance, and drive it as if trying to destroy it. That was the revelation. American engineers designed the GMC for the reality of war, not the theory of it. They anticipated poorly trained drivers, delayed maintenance, and terrible operating conditions. So they built accordingly: simple, robust, and forgiving. On August 25, 1944, the same day the Red Ball Express began operations, the 276th Infantry Division received orders to withdraw eastward. They witnessed something that completed their education in American logistics. An American convoy passed on a parallel road, not a tactical movement, but a supply column. The watching Germans counted the vehicles as they rolled by. After half an hour, they gave up counting. Truck after truck, stretching as far as the eye could see. GMC CCKWs dominated the column, all identical, all loaded with supplies, all moving with mechanical precision toward the front. "Where are their horses?" a young soldier asked, genuinely puzzled. The Hopfeld Weibel realized the boy had never seen a fully motorized army. In the Wehrmacht, 80% of logistics relied on horses. Their division alone required over 5,000 horses to move supplies. These horses needed food, water, rest, and veterinary care. They could march only 30 kilometers per day in good conditions. They died by the thousands in winter. American divisions had no horses. They had trucks. Thousands of trucks capable of covering hundreds of kilometers per day, requiring no fodder, never tiring, and never freezing to death. That night, the supply officer ran more calculations. Each American division had about 2,000 trucks. With 40 divisions in France, that meant 80,000 trucks supporting combat operations, not counting the supply services. In contrast, Germany had 3 million horses across all fronts and perhaps 100,000 trucks. Someone asked the obvious question: how could they produce so many vehicles? The answer was difficult to convey. American automotive plants had been designed for mass production long before the war. Ford's assembly line, GM's production systems. When the war started, they simply converted civilian production to military needs. The same factories that built Chevrolet sedans built GMC trucks. The same workers who assembled Oldsmobiles also assembled military vehicles. The transition was smooth because the manufacturing philosophy was the same: standardization, interchangeability, mass production. Germany had excellent engineers but lacked this production infrastructure. The Opel plant in Brandenburg, even at peak output, couldn't match a single American automotive complex. And America had dozens of such complexes. By September 1944, The unit had captured 3 more GMC trucks and a Dodge WC-63. The mechanics observed something remarkable. Parts were interchangeable, not just between GMC trucks, but across different manufacturers. A GMC carburetor fit the Dodge. Electrical components were standardized. Even tires were the same size. "They've standardized their entire vehicle fleet," the supply officer explained. "One set of specifications, multiple manufacturers. It means any mechanic can service any truck and any parts depot can supply any vehicle. Their logistics are unified in a way ours have never been. The Wehrmacht used vehicles from dozens of manufacturers with incompatible parts. A mechanic trained on an Opel couldn't necessarily service a Boeing or a Mercedes. Parts warehouses had to stock components for hundreds of vehicle types, creating a logistical nightmare. On October 3, 1944, the division's remaining vehicles were stranded when fuel supplies failed to arrive. The horses could forage, but the trucks sat immobilized. Meanwhile, American operations continued without disruption because their supply network, built on thousands of GMC trucks, delivered fuel reliably to the forward units. The mechanics spent their idle time studying the captured American trucks. One observation crystallized their understanding. We designed our vehicles to be good. They designed theirs to be good enough, but in overwhelming numbers. In total war, that wins. The Hedfeld-Wiebel wrote a detailed technical report on the GMC CCKW, documenting every aspect: the standardized components, the simple maintenance procedures, the robust construction that sacrificed elegance for durability. The report noted that while the Opel Blitz was superior to the GMC in fuel efficiency and maneuverability, these advantages were meaningless when Germany produced 1 truck for every 5 or 6 American trucks. The report concluded, "American vehicle production represents industrial capacity we cannot match." Their manufacturing philosophy prioritizes quantity and standardization over individual vehicle perfection. In sustained warfare, this approach has proven devastatingly effective. Similar reports were flooding Wehrmacht headquarters from every front. German intelligence analysts compiled American production statistics with growing concern. The numbers were staggering. American factories produced 2.4 million military trucks during the war. Germany, Italy, and Japan combined couldn't approach that total. In December 1944, the Ardennes offensive, Hitler's final gamble in the West, relied heavily on capturing American fuel supplies as Germany lacked sufficient fuel to sustain the operation. German soldiers were instructed to use captured American vehicles whenever possible, as German logistics couldn't keep up. The irony was bitter. Germany's last major offensive depended on capturing the very vehicles and fuel that symbolized their defeat. The 276th Infantry Division took part in the offensive, using their collection of captured American trucks alongside a few remaining Opel vehicles. The operation stalled, not primarily due to American resistance, though it was fierce, but because of a collapse in German logistics. Panzer divisions abandoned their tanks when fuel trucks couldn't reach them. Infantry units resorted to horse-drawn wagons because motorized transport had broken down. Meanwhile, American supply operations continued with mechanical efficiency. The Red Ball Express had ended in November, but American logistics now operated from Antwerp, Brussels, and Cherbourg. Trucks moved supplies along increasingly efficient routes as engineers rebuilt French infrastructure. The American army was a machine fed by industry operating at a scale Germany had never achieved. In January 1945, as the Ardennes offensive failed and German forces retreated, the captured GMC trucks proved invaluable. They kept running, while the Opel trucks, subjected to the same harsh conditions, had mostly broken down. The difference wasn't just maintenance, it was design philosophy. The GMC was built to withstand punishment. The Opel was built to German standards of precision that couldn't handle wartime abuse. By March 1945, the 276th Infantry Division was defending positions in the Rhineland, while American forces had crossed the Rhine with overwhelming strength. The mechanics watched American supply operations with professional admiration tinged with despair. They've built an army that runs on logistics, and they've built logistics that can't be stopped, the Hopfeld-Weibel observed. Our army was built assuming short campaigns, where tactical excellence would overcome material disadvantages. We never planned for this. Years of sustained combat against an enemy that produces equipment faster than we can destroy it. The division surrendered on April 18, 1945. They were transported to processing centers in American GMC trucks. The journey provided a final lesson in American industrial capacity. At the processing center near Koblenz, prisoners saw hundreds of American trucks in motor pools. Young American soldiers serviced them with casual efficiency that would have been impossible in the Wehrmacht. Parts were abundant. Tools were readily available. Maintenance manuals were simple enough that soldiers with minimal training could perform complex repairs. A captured mechanic spoke with an American motor sergeant who, despite the circumstances, was surprisingly friendly. "You're mechanics? Hell, we need mechanics. Can you work on these?" The sergeant gestured at the GMC trucks. "Yes, we've maintained several captured ones." "Good. The war is over for you guys, but these trucks still need maintenance. I can get you assigned to the motor pool. Better than sitting behind wire." Over the following weeks, German mechanics worked alongside American soldiers, maintaining the very vehicles that had helped defeat them. The American sergeant explained the maintenance philosophy with unguarded honesty. "We design everything for speed, quick maintenance, common parts, and simple procedures. See this engine? A complete overhaul can be done by a two-man team in 8 hours using field tools. Try doing that with one of your trucks." The German mechanic acknowledged the truth. An Opel engine overhaul required factory conditions and specialized equipment. "We designed for precision. You designed for practicality." "Exactly. In peacetime, your way probably produces better vehicles. In war, our way produces vehicles that keep armies moving. How many of these GMC trucks do you think we built?" "I don't know. Hundreds of thousands. Over 500,000 of just this model. Then there's the Dodges, the Studebakers, the Internationals. Millions of trucks total. That's what won the war. Not better equipment, but more equipment than you could ever destroy," the American continued. "You know what's funny? These trucks aren't that complicated. We used commercial truck technology, barely modified it for military use. The engines are commercial designs, the transmissions commercial. We just made it rugged and produced it in massive quantities." This was the lesson German mechanics absorbed completely. America had won through industrial philosophy as much as industrial capacity. They designed for mass production from the start, standardized ruthlessly, prioritized reliability over sophistication, and built supply chains that could sustain operations indefinitely. The mechanics spent months in prisoner camps, many working in American motor pools. They witnessed the scale of American logistics daily, convoys of hundreds of trucks moving supplies across occupied Germany, repair depots with more spare parts than entire German divisions had possessed, and production systems so efficient that damaged vehicles were often replaced rather than repaired, because new vehicles arrived faster than repairs could be completed. In late 1945, as repatriation began, German mechanics returned to a devastated homeland. Cities lay in rubble, factories were destroyed, but American vehicles were everywhere. GMC trucks hauling reconstruction materials, jeeps carrying occupation forces, equipment supporting the beginning of German rebuilding. The Hopfeld-Weibel, now a civilian, found work at a reconstruction depot in Frankfurt. His experience with American vehicles made him valuable. One day, training young Germans in vehicle maintenance, he reflected on what the war had taught him. "Before the war, we believed German engineering was superior, that quality would overcome quantity. We were wrong. The Americans understood modern industrial warfare better than we did. They built adequate equipment in overwhelming numbers. They standardized ruthlessly. They designed for the army. They had millions of ordinary men, not the army we wished we had. Elite specialists, He gestured at the GMC trucks in the depot yard. These trucks aren't masterpieces of engineering, but they won the war because there were hundreds of thousands of them. They all used the same parts. Any soldier could drive them, and any mechanic could fix them. That was the genius. Not in individual vehicles, but in the system that produced them. By 1947, the Marshall Plan was delivering aid to Germany, primarily transported in American trucks. German mechanics maintained these vehicles, applying lessons learned from years of observation and practice. When German industry began rebuilding, many incorporated American manufacturing methods, principles, standardization, component commonality, and design for manufacturability. The GMC CCKW remained in American service until the 1960s, a testament to its enduring design. Many continued serving in Allied militaries for even longer. Despite being a high-quality vehicle, the Opel Blitz came to symbolize Germany's industrial weaknesses during the war. In the years that followed, German automotive manufacturers combined German engineering precision with American mass production methods. Companies like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and the rebuilt Volkswagen produced vehicles that fused both philosophies. Precision engineering designed for efficient mass production. Former Wehrmacht mechanics, who had maintained both German and American vehicles during the war, became valuable consultants to Germany's rebuilding efforts. They understood both approaches and could explain why the American system had proven superior in sustained conflict. One such consultant, in a 1967 interview for an automotive trade journal, summarized the lesson. The GMC truck taught us that in modern warfare, perfection is the enemy of good enough. Germany designed beautiful vehicles that were too complex to produce in necessary quantities and too sophisticated for field maintenance. America designed adequate vehicles that could be produced by the millions and maintained by anyone. We lost not because our engineers were inferior, but because we misunderstood what industrial warfare required. The article included a photograph of a restored GMC CCKW at an automotive museum. The caption read, "American GMC CCKW Deuce-and-a-Half truck. Over 560,000 produced from 1941 to 1945. These trucks formed the backbone of the Red Ball Express and represented the American industrial philosophy that overwhelmed Axis powers through mass production and standardization. Beside it sat a restored Opel Blitz. The caption read, "German Opel Blitz, 3-ton truck, approximately 100,000. Produced from 1937 to 1944. Excellent vehicle design hampered by limited production capacity and lack of four-wheel drive in most models. The visual comparison told the story completely. Both were well-designed trucks, but one existed in overwhelming numbers with standardized parts, simple maintenance, and a logistics network that could sustain armies indefinitely. The other was a quality product produced in insufficient quantities by an industrial base that couldn't compete with American manufacturing capacity. The mechanics who first examined the captured GMC in August 1944 understood immediately what it represented. They had seen the future and Germany's past. The American industrial philosophy, developed in Detroit's automotive plants and honed through decades of mass production, had proven itself the superior approach for modern warfare. The GMC CCKW wasn't just a truck. It was a teacher of hard lessons about industrial warfare, design philosophy, and why quantity has a quality all its own. For German mechanics who maintained these vehicles as prisoners and later as civilians, helping to rebuild their country, these lessons shaped the rest of their lives and influenced German manufacturing for generations. The story of Wehrmacht mechanics and the GMC truck is ultimately about learning through defeat. They had believed in German superiority, in precision over quantity, in engineering perfection over mass production. American trucks, simple, abundant, and reliable, taught them otherwise. That knowledge, painful to acquire, became invaluable in reconstruction. helping transform Germany from a defeated enemy to a prosperous ally. The mechanics who drove captured GMC trucks admitted they had never encountered vehicles quite like them, not because of superior engineering, but because of a production philosophy Germany had never mastered. That admission, honest and humbling, marked the beginning of wisdom that rebuilt a nation.